welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, October 10th, 2020. How's everybody doing?
Very good.
Sorry,
Thank you.
sorry, Barb. I had to mute you. The audio is really super hot still. So,
I'll up to 12.
we are officially open for business now. So, I think we just did this a few hours ago, and I was late then, but I'm not late now. So, how's everybody doing? What are we doing? What have we been up to? Don't all speak at once.
I'd like to hopefully continue that discussion that you had on Biddle Europe.
Okay.
'Cause I missed out on that.
We can do that.
I mean, that's just me, you know. I'm only one vote, so let's ask somebody else.
No, I'm really good with that. I think we should probably let somebody, like, if somebody has something they've done this week they want to talk about. I'm okay with talking about that first.
What was the discussion? What was the discussion?
It was about what you would like to have for a perfect distro. Like, what features would you want in a perfect distro? All right.
Pretty good.
Seeing as how nobody's going to say anything, we're just going to move right on and say, hey, Nate, why don't you start it out?
Well, I'm on the perfect distribution.
No. That's not how this works. Nope.
Now listen, there must be something that's not quite right, or something you saw somewhere else that you would love to have in your OpenSUSE. That's the perfect distribution.
Well, so the perfect distribution for me is well, let me back up a little bit. The perfect distribution for me is one that can change and alter itself to my continually changing needs. And then Computer Kid hit it on the European edition when he made a comment that he's also like his workflow is changing, what he does is changing. It's kind of growing. He's in kind of like this rapid expanse or rapid development stage. And I wouldn't say I'm rapid development or rapid change, but my needs are creeping, kind of like the continental shifting. I'm kind of like that as far as like what I do with my computer. I mean, what I do today is far different than what I did 5 years ago on my system, and so I need something that can meld itself with me and deal with my persnicketiness, I guess, if that makes any sense. So now, are there things that I would like my distribution to do? Maybe let's say, because the discussion was out of the box. I think English Bob had made some statements about, well, English Bob does English Bob things.
Right.
So he always makes statements. But what I would say, what I would really like for, like, where OpenSUSE I believe would be a better distribution for me, is if just out of the box they had a better, even if they just did like a web wrap of their software.opensuse.org, just to make it really easy for a new user to just go in and start doing software-y things. That to me would be the ideal. That'd be the really only real major change. And also for Tumbleweed, a much easier path for like PackageKit is sometimes broken if there's like it doesn't do dups very well, but it'll do updates quite well enough in OpenSUSE. But if it did something to the effect of where it would just something that would wrap and work the zipper piece of it for distribution updates, and then you can do all the interactive stuff nice and clean manner, and then you really wouldn't have to go into a terminal ever, And that same wrapper would also have maybe a Flatpak tab and a snap tab, make it just really easy to look at the different repositories. So that would make it perfect. But outside of that, I mean, probably another month, my desire is going to change a little bit. I'm going to change something else about the desktop. I reconfigured some things recently to make I think Joe made some obnoxious comment about my desktop recently. So I decided I would alter it. So I blame Joe.
It's good to blame Joe.
It is. All right. Who wants to go next? Donnie, go ahead. Tell us what would be your features of your perfect distro.
So perfect distro for me will be, I'd like to see the deb packages and RPM packages I'm able to install both packages in one distro, especially when I think of someone coming from Windows and they're used to going to exe. You know, I can go and I might not know what distro I'm running, and I can download either one and it works. I'd like to see in a distro where it's easy to install different desktop environments, kind of like how Sparky Linux does it. They have in their Aptos and OpenSUSE does the same thing. So you can just go and very easily install a different desktop environment and pre-configured. You just have to change some things. And what OpenSUSE does, and also what Fedora does, ButterFS, snapshotting. I think it's an amazing feature. Every distro should adopt to and make it happen. You know, I will never worry about my system breaking. Just use it, something happens, I roll back and it's good to go. To me, those are the 3 points that I feel like every distro should have.
Now, I got a question for you, Donnie. Are you familiar with the with Alien, the package cross compiler thing? It doesn't compile. It just basically changes its form.
Yeah, it transforms your package from RPM to Deb or Deb to RPM. Yeah.
Yep. So that is a thing. I suppose it really wouldn't take much to actually make that a drop your package here and it'll convert it for your system, like like a fun little tool to do that. You know, like a little drag and drop for people. You know, you're not sure if it works for your system, drag and drop it, boom. You know, I suppose that could be done.
You know, I've been using Linux for what, 7-8 years now, and I've never heard of it. So I mean,
Alien,
great Alien. I'm definitely gonna check it out.
Look it up. Now it's hit and miss as far as how well it works. For some packages, it works great. For some packages, it falls on its face. Don't know why. But for everything that I've ever tried to convert, it's worked well. Like, so for instance, the NDI plugin for OBS, that's only available in a Deb. I run OpenSUSE. I turn it to an RPM and it seems to work just great. And periodically I go and I'll check for updates. But that's kind of the problem there is now updates are now on me to make sure that, I'm checking.
I mean, that's okay if I can still get it if it's not available in one of those two formatting. I mean, in the format that I'm looking for, it will be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Thanks, Nate. And Donnie. Let's see. Colin, go right ahead. You got your hand up.
I think this is a very interesting conversation, to be honest. And there's so many times when I'm running distros over the years, like we do that hopping thing.
No, I don't know what you're talking about, Colin. Sorry.
And there's always something that it's hard to sort of bring back some of the memories that the thoughts that you have at the time. You think, if only it had this, if only it had that. I can't think of everything at the moment, but at the moment I'm currently running Ferrin OS beta. So, and what Ferrin is doing sort of reminds me of what a distro really should be. And the only thing that's missing in Plasma is like an activities overview. I would love to see an activities overview in Plasma. I think that would just about complete Plasma, and he's making all these different layouts where you can change up the desktop. It's a pseudo rolling release, so you never have to reinstall it again. He does update the desktop, I think, as he goes, Ferrin, I'm pretty sure. So I'm really keeping an eye on what he's doing because it's he's doing some really good stuff. And some of I don't know if you've seen some of the screenshots during the week he had of what his proposals are for his store and all that. Looks very nice. So I think he's sort of getting there to what I would like a desktop to be honest. Not that I'm a real Plasma guy, but I could deal with it if it's got the things you need. So there's so many. I think this is what snaps, Flatpaks, and app images are changing now, that the desktop environments, whereas you can have the perfect desktop and still have those applications that you need that are up to date. So I think that's always been a sticking point in the past as well. So I don't know. That's my thoughts anyway. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a. There's so many things that you can talk about. That there were so many different opinions on Middle Europe, and I'm sure there's going to be different things we're going to talk about here. I don't think we'll be able to talk about them all, but
well, we can try.
We can try. Thomas, go ahead.
So I'm kind of with Donnie here. I want to be able to install an RPM on my Deb-based system. And I knew about Alien, but in my experience with Alien, everything that I've tried to convert from RPM to Deb has broken. However, it's been a couple years, so things could have changed in that time. I want also, and this may sound blasphemous to some people, but I want a optional command line utility to manage my app images. So kind of like a package manager, but I don't have to use it. I could do like, for instance, API-get app image name, and there would be like a central repository that it could download an app image from, or a central location where it knows, okay, this is where this app image is stored on the developer server, download that. And I can do like a API-get delete app image, and it deletes it from where I have it stored. And maybe even have it so I can tell it, hey, I want all my app images downloaded right here where I manually download my app images to. That way I can go, okay, I want to manually download this app image because for some odd reason it's not in this central repository. Plop it in there, the command line utility sees it. I haven't heard of anything like that, and I really wish it existed because that would make my life so much easier, because whenever I want to check for software, I can just do everything for the command line. I don't have to go to the developer's website and see if they have an app image, if they don't have a Deb, a Snap, a Flatpak, you name it. I also want to be able to use the AUR on a Deb-based system because I've heard nothing but praise for it from all of my Arch friends, and it's great, but I'm an Ubuntu user, and I'm not about to leave Ubuntu for Arch just for the AUR. So if that could be ported over, that would be fantastic. I also want switchable hybrid graphics to work like they do on Windows. I want to hit a button and it switches over, no login, log out, no reboot, none of that. Just hit a button and it's done.
Now, Thomas, how good are they on Windows? Because I hear all the time the stories that say that they're not quite as good even on Windows.
My experience is you hit a button, the screen goes black for a second, and then it pops right back up, and it's running on the other graphics card.
Well, I'll tell you what, Thomas, if you use GNOME, you could do that right from the applications menu.
Yeah, but I'm an XFCE dude, so maybe eventually. It's probably a few years down the line.
Yeah, you gotta.
It's probably gonna be like 417, 418, which is probably 5 years away already.
Oh.
If we're just being honest here. But that's something I also want to see, and I want to see it on every single DE, not just GNOME. And it's great that GNOME has that, but some of us may have a relatively powerful system, but want to be able to use that anyway because we like having a lighter weight system on powerful hardware because it gets really snappy when you do that. And there was one other thing that I really wanted on Linux that I haven't seen yet. And I don't remember what it is. I'll put it in the Zoom chat for somebody else to bring it up if I remember it. Yeah.
Even can you remember it for Thomas? Oh. Is he muted?
Yes.
Okay.
Steven, you there? Oh, there he is.
Yes, I am. Sorry, I didn't realize you were talking to me.
Oh, my bad.
I have trouble enough remembering what I'm going to say, so we'll see how we go. Just a quick comment about the being able to use Deb packages and RPMs and various other formats on the same distro. I think that the difficulty is with that approach is the fact that you have software that's on often on wildly different versions that rely on shared libraries, and those shared libraries, the requirements for those shared libraries are different versions. So if you look at like oftentimes, the package that's in LTS Ubuntu, for example, might be 6 months to a year older than the package that you might have in the AUR, or that you might have in the Arch repository. So you end up with the versioning conflicts. So I think that's kind of why snaps and Flatpaks are there, to be able to sort of bridge the gap and keep you from having to worry about the dependencies, the library versions, all the complications that come with trying to keep everything consistent. If you using the universal package formats, I know there are downsides to the universal package formats, but I think that's probably the closest thing we have right now to solving that problem.
Probably a fair assessment. It's a pretty difficult problem to solve. They've been trying for decades. Jinda, you got your hand
We'll get
raised?
there in 2050.
2050.
Right. No rush.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to be, saying that which distro is perfect. I don't think I'll ever have it. I really don't. But as long as a Linux distro is able to get any of the features they have out to everybody else. To me, Linux, the whole point of Linux is the fact that there's a million distros and there's a million different things that everyone did, and you share all that stuff and you try to make the perfect Linux distro, and it keeps growing. And I think that's kind of what I would try to emphasize more than anything. The only problem is I don't know how you find out that like Linux distro A has the coolest whatever. I don't know how you find that out without trying millions of them like I do continuously over the last 20 years. But I think you guys kind of understand my point, right?
Yep.
So I didn't mention this earlier, but there's actually a tool that can make this whole RPM versus deb thing easier. It's called Bedrock Linux. It sounds like a distro, but it's not. The best way I can describe it, and Amalith, who used to be on here a lot, can explain this a lot better than I can, because I've actually never used it. But from what I understand is it's something that sits almost underneath the kernel and manages all that for you. So you can like have the kernel from Arch or the kernel from Debian and apps from Arch or Fedora or whatever, and all of that, and it work somewhat harmoniously, and you aren't in dependency hell.
That's
Okay.
cool.
Sounds like a dream come true.
I want to throw in something there for for Thomas as far as his app image desire. I don't know. Did you see? I tagged you on the YouTube chat, I think. But there's this app image launcher. Now it's not exactly the repository that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
This is the repository you're looking for, but it is a way of making a local repository that manages it and puts everything in your menu very nicely. So go ahead and look that up. See, kind of dig around in there. I use App Image Launcher on a lot of my systems.
Mm-hmm.
It really has made using app images a lot more integrated and clean and whatnot. And it's very easy then to get rid of and upgrade and so forth. So it's kind of it's probably not as clean as you would like, but I'm sure you can feature request if there are things you don't like about it. I'm sure you can do that. So, so yeah, check it out and tell us what you think next week.
I have like 3 app images I use, and I can literally edex UI, because who doesn't want to feel like a hacker sometimes?
Right.
Unity, the Unity thing to make games with, and Belina Etcher. And all 3 of those have like a built-in upgrader utility. So, I don't really need anything like that, but I will take a look at it and see if, maybe it has something where I can look for app images, or if I can suggest it. Because that is something I feel like needs to be made, is some sort of like app image hub where you can find places that you can download the app images from on like a JSON file from a command line or something like that. Because app image reminds me way too much of Windows, and that I left Windows because I don't have to go to a developer's website on Linux. I can just app install app thing.
Thomas, I just put it in the chat, something called appimagehub.com. Check it out.
All right. Anybody else want to jump in about their feelings on what would make a perfect distro?
Well, I mean, I don't have opinions or anything.
No,
but
of course not.
no, I wouldn't
Why?
do that. But I am really weird in the fact that, like, I'm okay with sacrificing some of my creature comforts for just being progressive with development of stuff. So I want a system that focuses on making progress and adopting new technologies and changing the way that we think and the way that we work, rather than just kind of like assuming that just because things are the normal way of doing things, that they're the best way of doing things. And I think this is why I like desktops like Pantheon and GNOME a lot, is because, like, yeah, it's hard sometimes, but they're willing to just push forward for whatever goal they have in mind. And I think that that kind of commitment from a project is really important to me. Because, I mean, humans are flexible, I think, or something like that. And, you know, we can learn, we can adapt. And I think that I want a system that focuses on adopting new technologies, because I like what we can create with technology, and I don't like seeing it hampered by just constantly clinging to the old, which is why I've always been in favor of like a UEFI boot and just totally dropping legacy boot, and why I've been in favor of not even using Grub anymore and moving to systemd boot. So if I could find a distribution that was like, we're all in on systemd boot, we're all in on like a desktop that's constantly upgraded and moving forward, and we're using newer formats, we're really pushing the limits, like that would be the perfect distribution for me.
Very nice. Now, let me ask you a question, Shickle. The reason that whole app thing was brought up earlier in Biddle Europe was because you and Joe had a conversation. In Telegram. So what was the points you were trying to make about the package management?
So I think it was because I was seeing a lot of people saying that they believe that distributions should ship and enable like all of the formats from like AppImage to Flatpak to Snaps. And I disagreed with that heavily, because I think it not only does it just not consider the amount of work that actually is required to support these things, because if a distribution ships all three, like they actually kind of have to support it a little bit. If they're just totally careless with it, like they might as well not even be there. You can just slap it onto any distribution and be fine with it. But I think it not only does it disallow projects from having their own identities and goals and ideals, it also kind of like forces them to support things that they either may not want or may be incompatible with what they're working on, or may just be outside the scope of what they're capable of actually handling. And I think that the thing that bothered me was that I don't like it when we put so much pressure on distributions to just do things because we want them without considering the consequences it actually has.
Well, like, as I had said earlier, that I'm not saying that the distributions should support all of them, but I think they should be enabled in all of them. Just like, like for example, you mentioned, well, they would have to support it a little bit. Well, not really, because if it's not enabled and I enable it myself, I can't then go to the distribution and say, support this now.
Right.
So they wouldn't have to support it. They would, to me, they should just allow it to be there and enable it.
That I agree with. Yeah. And that's, I mean, my example was Ubuntu, where they already have Flatpak in the repositories and a user can enable it, install it, you know, app images can be run. But if they shipped Flatpak by default and had it enabled, the problem then becomes like their enterprise customers, if they start using these features and they're not exactly how they expect it to, or when it's shipped out in universities, like their commitment and development of snaps is not only because it's something they believe in, but it's also a vote of confidence. And that helps their investors. That helps people who are developing for that platform. And as soon as they backtrack on that and start shipping something else, it kind of takes away the solidity of that a little bit as well. And then you have to consider what repository are they shipping by default. Because if they're just shipping Flatpak empty with no repositories, they might as well not be shipping it at all. So would they vet FlatHub and ship FlatHub? Because they have no control over FlatHub, which is kind of a risk in terms of their image and the quality of their product.
Right. I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard question.
So what you're saying, Rocco, is that it should be there and it's up to the person to enable it. So it's an easy thing to enable it and use it. But if you have problems, the problems are not burdened to the distributors themselves. Yeah.
Right. They're not.
Is that what you said? Yeah.
They're not liable for any piece of software that you install on your system at any time. So I don't see why they should be liable for a snap or a Flatpak or something like that's installed. But allowing the user to actually install it should be there. Just like you install from a deb package or a repository. You have to add the repositories that you want to add, but they're enabled that you can do that. And that's the same way it should be with Snap. It's the same way it should be with Flatpak. And then the user gets the choice. You can't come back to the distro and say, hey, got to support this software now. It was your choice to install it, but it should be there to be installed.
This is why I like you, Rocco.
If I may to interject on that, before we get to Eris. So hang on, Eris. I kind of like the OpenSUSE approach to that, which is pretty much you do whatever you want.
That is shocking that you would like the OpenSUSE.
And this is actually why I like their approach. It's they don't limit you on anything. Now, currently, snaps are part of like they're considered experimental in OpenSUSE. They're not part of the official packaging, but they are in the open build service, and there's active work done. Like so when I've had issues with snaps on OpenSUSE, I would file bug reports against it. And also I would, so the people from that work on Snapcraft.io folk, they are heavily involved in making sure that Snaps works in OpenSUSE. And there's no one in SUSE that is, stopping it from happening. They're just whatever you want to do is fine. It's cool, and that's an approach I think that all distributions really should take, as opposed to, forcefully stopping you.
Yep, exactly.
Just let you do what you want to do. It's your computer, it's your distribution, it's your, if you want to turn this thing upside down on its head and do crazy stuff and make, do the Schickel approach about, let's make everything crazy and that's better, which is cool. Do it, and if it works, it's like a stirring pot of good ideas. The good ideas will, they'll eventually will be absorbed anyway if you do it with that approach.
I think we covered it before, Nate, with Linux Mint and them not enabling it or blocking it or whatever. But
I wasn't going to say names.
Well, it's true. It's nothing. There's no reason to hide it. I mean, they're fine with it, so I'm fine with it. But like any software that you install can be used as a backdoor to your system. You install a repo, a third-party repo, you have no idea. You're trusting that third-party person. They don't block you from being able to install third-party repos. So their reasoning behind that was really not good, in my opinion. So we'll just leave it at that. We won't open that can of worms too far, just a little bit to let one or two out, and then
you're just cracking the top there.
Just cracking the top.
But you're not putting your vent hole in. You're just
right.
The front hole. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's cool. So Eris,
yes.
You got your hand up.
Well, I started this whole can of worms, I'll admit it.
Of course you did.
And I stated that all this, let me see, I don't know. Oh, I can. I don't even have Telegram open, but I think I said all distros should just ship all formats or ship/enable if possible. Because of course, you can't really install everything in every single distro. Because let's say like Snaps, you need systemd, that's not gonna work on some of the distros for obvious reasons. But I think you just have to have them there. They just have to be installed, and you don't have to select all of them. Like, I understand the fact that all developers have a limited time. You can have a preference. You can say, we support Flatpak more, and we'll give you a better experience with Flatpak, but the it's installed. Snap is installed. It's not doing anything. It doesn't have a core installed. But if you want to go down to the terminal or something, install it and do anything else, it's there. That's what my point was. And I think it's unrealistic to think that they're going to have let's say like a GUI for every single format, but they can pick their own, and they can also default to using the website. I mean, FlatHub has the website. You can search for apps. You don't have to make a GUI there, and that's also up to the user. I think as much as we want to make everything as easy as possible because of lack of resources, because some things are technical, we do, I feel, have to be a little more expectations from the user. And I think copy and pasting the link into the terminal to install it if you want, I think that's doable. I mean, everybody copy and paste messages on their phones and everything. And I think that could work.
Well,
but obviously, I think if anything, the worst part of this this argument would be the corporate distros, and that's for obvious reasons because they do it. But even so, how many packages are in repos and are never updated? They're just there. They just stay there. They say, oh, these are the main repos that everything's in every repo is enabled, but only these repos we're actually gonna update during the lifetime of the distro. This will just be the same thing basically.
Right. I like it. And I agree. I think that, the giving the user the choice, the ultimate choice is the best way to handle that, really. Because again, if they want to shickle up your system, shickle away, DJ, what have you got for us?
I was just going to go last because I didn't want to talk about packages, but since your question was what would make the most perfect distro, right? But I will make one comment about trying to combine all the packages onto one system. Is first of all, you're overloading your system, and that is a kind of a habit that we have on workstations that we do not try to do on servers. And I say that because the way packages check for dependencies is they look for, take a deb, for example, it's going to look for dependencies that are deb. RPM is going to look for dependencies that are RPM. And if you try to mix the two, you're going to have trouble because they're going to collide when they implement the libraries at the file system. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. Is my take on it. But anyway, what would make the most perfect distro for me would be, I would like to see this file system that we continue to use that's based on technology. It was developed in the 60s. That should go away. This file directory business is just too slow to find anything, and you can't get any kind of relationship between files. I would like to see us move to the high performance computing model where we use metadata to do interrelationships between files so that I can search for a term and I can see all the files that are related to it. That's all I had.
DJ, for that file system, like how could we do that? Could that happen? Could we implement that?
It would be a major change, Rocco, because everything in Linux is tied to that old directory structure. It's been shown over and over again. We've done studies. I remember doing studies at IBM where it was actually quicker to keep a handwritten list to find a file than it was to actually search for it. It's just stupid that we continue to use that. It worked great when people were used to using file cabinets and file folders in their real work, but I bet money that how many of you have seen a file cabinet and actually know how to file in one?
I know how to file one.
I've knocked one over.
I have to all the time at work.
Okay.
Really good idea.
Vince, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I don't know as much about the nitty gritty about package management. So my viewpoint is a bit more bigger picture type of viewpoint. And it sort of follows a little bit from the discussion last week with Neil and packages. I think there's a bit of a discrepancy between what developers want and what users want, because the way I see it, you've probably got about 90% of users who really don't care. They want to get onto their system, Like you were saying earlier, Rocco, get onto the system, install it, whatever they need, and have it all work from the get-go. They don't mind where the package comes from. They don't mind if it's a snap or a Flatpak or a deb package. They often don't even mind about security or privacy issues. They just want it to work and get on with their day, do the stuff they need. And then you've got the developers who will argue ad nauseum about the pros and cons between the different types of packaging formats, the security, the theming, whether it's a deb package or whatever. And I'm just thinking how we can get these two sort of viewpoints to meet in the middle somewhere, where people can just sort of agree that, okay, this is the way forward.
That's very hard to do, brother, especially in Linux.
It's just it's hard to do.
That doesn't happen in most industries.
Yeah,
no, this is true.
This is where I think a good manager could, if a good manager came in to, really get everyone together.
You mean a dictator? Yeah.
You mean, yeah, I get what you mean. It's difficult because both sides think of things that the other doesn't. And so you need a way to get those together and bridge the gap.
I don't mean someone to force a particular viewpoint. It's more to get everyone to see each other's viewpoints and to communicate that.
Yeah, because
a mediator. You need a mediator. That's what you need.
Some sort of arbitration. Yeah, but because both sides probably have valid points, and you've got to find the middle ground. It's like everything.
I think there's value though in the organic discovery that each of the camps do, as far as like good healthy competition is, sometimes you end up reaching the same destination. You just take these different paths, and I often think that forcing a path is not necessarily the best way anyway. We don't want to be like Darth Vader and squeeze until the little systems pop out between the fingers.
Yep.
So
you're right, Nate.
There's something to be said though for orchestrating at the same time, and I'm not really sure where that line is.
Yeah, the problem I see with the organic path is that there's sometimes the bickering that it leads to before you get to that place that you're talking about.
Well, I don't think we've got to that place. Like, I don't think we've ever gotten there as far as that's concerned.
No. Here's to dreaming.
I mean, I think that we could, but there's so many people with so many strong feelings that sometimes that takes away from actually working together, and it shouldn't.
You're welcome, Rocco.
It shouldn't, but it does.
That's exactly what I mean.
Could us users start demanding things that, to the point where it would destroy the direction in which the developers wanted to go, though? That's the other thing, isn't it?
I'll give you a perfect example. Now, I've talked about this type of thing for a long time, and every time I talk about it, somebody will either misunderstand what I'm talking about or like completely take it out of context or something. So we don't want to take away choice. Like, we don't want to have something where it's a dictatorship, where this person says what's going to happen and that's the way it is. And if you don't like it, too bad. You still need choice. Choice is the greatest thing about Linux, but it's also the thing that holds Linux back from becoming greater than it is. And that's where we need to kind of like work together and stop infighting and stop trashing each other and just work together. I may not like what you like, but that doesn't mean we can't sit here and have a good conversation about it and even come to a working agreement or a conclusion of some kind.
Yeah, and it may be even divergent paths at the end of the day. That might be the solution.
Maybe.
I have a suggestion. If that's what you want to do, why don't you submit a proposal to the open group under the POSIX label and let the committee go work it?
Because I'm not smart enough to make up a proposal, DJ.
Rocco, I think Barb's trying to talk, but I think she's muted.
Yeah.
Am I muted?
No.
I'm not.
She's waiting her time. That's okay.
Yeah,
I'm getting there.
Oh.
I was letting you guys hash it out. Go ahead, Barb.
Okay, two things. One, in terms of what Rocco was saying, I think when, the idea of changing whatever, you're starting to deal with human nature, and we know humans don't like change. And that's part of where this comes in. You have to get them past that fear of what's behind the what's that next step. But to go back to the whole thing with flat packs versus snaps, I got a new System 76 Gazelle 17-inch, so I can happily scan my gazillion slides that I found. And I, okay, yeah, I can use any debs I want. And I was looking for a couple things that were, they're available as snaps, but they're not available as debs. And then it dawned on me, oh yeah, that's right. They don't have that option in there. And I think that we had a little discussion earlier today about that in the Telegram group. So, but I knew that, okay, I have to go and put in Snapd and et cetera, et cetera. But again, if we want Linux to be used by more people, isn't that something then we have to, there may be people who've never heard of snaps. We have. We're that special collective that because we're so into this. But then you have that other thing where, well, gee, the last Linux I used, I had these snaps. Now I'm using some other distro and I can't get them as snaps, or I can't get them because they don't have them as flat packs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something else. I mean, but I think the option should be there, but I can also see where if you give people sometimes too many choices, they kind of, their brains burst.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want
and
it
that's
to go.
the big problem.
Yep. Makes sense.
Mhm.
Dan Kelly, go ahead.
Okay. One thing I'd like to see come up or be built is along the lines of something that Barb was just talking about. I'd like to see them make a search tool where you put in the name or some name of the package or part of the name. It'll go through all of the repository for that distro. Then it'll switch to flat packs and scan the flat packs. It'll scan the Snap store, and it'll scan GitHub and give you some choices. And it would also rate the package best suited for what you're using. And if you don't have Snapd installed, it would recommend to install it for you if your distro can support it. And, because like with Debian, you just type in apt search in the file name and half the screen's full of that kind of a name or the exact name or different versions of that name. And that's really all I had to say on that comment.
All right. Anybody else want to get in on the distro? Your idea of the perfect distro or apps?
I think that while it would be cool to have like all things the same because like we are Borg and assimilate and stuff, I think it's actually kind of cool that we have competing standards that offer different viewpoints and abilities. Like, even though it can sometimes make things difficult for users because they have to kind of balance the two depending on who packages what for where and how and who, but I think it's just we're in a good spot right now, and I just like to remind everybody to appreciate it because I think we don't spend enough time doing that, and so we're really critical, but like we also have a lot of really good things, so just a friendly reminder that we're in a good spot.
Yep. We are in a good spot. We've been so for the last 6 months, probably last year. Where have all of the major issues gone? Like before, years ago, you would install Linux and you get black screens.
Apparently they're all on Joe's machine now.
Well, that's Pepcac there, just saying. But there are so many things that used to go wrong with an install, with just running the desktop, with installing programs. I mean, NVIDIA used to be such a headache. Like, everything was a trial in that time. And now we're at a point where you can install a distro and everything just works. Okay, sometimes you install one and it doesn't. Okay, that happens. But it's no longer the rule of thumb that, hey, you're going to have problems. The vast experience of people installing Linux right now is a good experience, and I think yes, we are definitely in a good time right now.
What Rocco's really trying to say is Linux is boring.
Well, I think the developers have spent more time patching these paper cuts and all this stuff, and these distros are upgrading them to where they're trouble free now. You get what you expect, and if you're complaining, you want more than it's out there.
Well, I think there has been a lot of work done. There's no question about it. But I think it's a little bit more than that because, like, you know, we've got to the point where it's no longer we're just patching, you know, long-standing bugs. We're adding a lot of features, new ones that weren't even there before that you almost come to expect nowadays. Like you expect to have a nice welcome screen. You expect to have your graphics drivers installed for you or by you, like with a click of a button. We didn't have that years ago. So I think it's awesome.
Well, I mean, where do you have that though? Like really, unless if you're buying something new, you got it. But if you're installing Windows.
Yeah, but if you install Windows, right, you have two choices. Like if you're on NVIDIA, you have to go to the NVIDIA's website and download the drivers, which is a one-click install. It's not hard. Or you have the GeForce experience where you can download and it automatically downloads your drivers for you and updates them for you. So they're at a point too where it's easy, like where it's not easy, but it's relatively simple. And I think we're at that point as well.
It's not done for you though. Like in the Windows install, you don't click a button and it's done by the time you reboot. So
true. Very true.
Maybe we got a leg up there.
Very true.
I actually think we do have a leg up there, quite honestly. I've had to faff more around with NVIDIA drivers on Windows than I have in Linux. I mean, so it's not like it's great everywhere. I think probably Pop! OS is the best NVIDIA experience I've had, of anything. I mean, really, if we're going to be fair, I think we have to say that.
Yeah. Eris, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say, I remember like what Rocco said that back how Linux was before. And I'll say, so nobody else gets in trouble, I get in trouble, but it was Ubuntu. Ubuntu made a big difference and everybody benefited once Ubuntu came on.
It did.
It raised the stakes for everybody else and everything changed from that.
Yeah.
You can say a lot about Ubuntu, you cannot like other things, but you cannot deny the difference that it made.
Well, you can, but you'd be wrong.
Competition also helps improve Linux distros as well.
Sure. Even if it's healthy competition.
Yep. All right. Anybody else?
Barb's got her hand up.
Yeah, I had my hand up. I think the thing, what we're really all saying is that the various distributions have actually matured. They've gotten to the point where I remember installing Slackware with the 30 zillion floppy disks and then hoping it could see your monitor and your graphics card. And now you don't really have to worry about all those types of things. You just start the install and come back a few minutes later and it's done. And that's a big step, and most of the time they work. I mean, I've had some distros when I played around a little bit, they just get a little squirrely because of the hardware, but for the most part they work. And as we keep getting all the newer graphics cards and CPUs and whatever, the kernel, I think, this is something else, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like the kernel seems to be getting updated more frequently to meet the needs of what the hardware is out there. I don't know, I may be wrong, but that's what I've seen. It appears, that's what I think I've noticed. And that helps with a lot of the things that often wouldn't work. I remember having an NVIDIA card and having to use Bumblebee and trying to get it to work. And now what do I have to do? Oh, yes, when I do this, I have to use no mode set. You know, it's like, now I don't even think about it.
Yeah, everything's updating so quick, but Debian is not.
How the tides have turned or changed.
Oh, yeah. Progress. Nothing wrong with progress.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Change is good.
Esnix, you got your hand raised.
Yeah, I've been around Linux for a long time, and I started off buying box sets like SUSE and Red Hat and Caldera. And this is going back to 98. I found if I followed the hardware compatibility guide on the box, I usually had a pretty easy time of installing and running it. If I didn't pay attention to the hardware compatibility, I had a harder time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think Linux wasn't that difficult if you were more technical, but not by a whole lot. Just reading the instructions was enough for me to get over most humps, and paying attention to the hardware, the chipset, the settings.
But we're a
IRQs,
different
DMAs.
we're a different breed, isn't it? Like we do look at that stuff.
Well,
you do look at that stuff. So most people aren't.
No, I appreciate the ease with which automatic hardware detection made my life, but even that development came around 2001. So automatic hardware detection has worked pretty well. Yeah, in the first year it was kind of iffy, but it grew very quickly to be very reliable early on. Now, companies like NVIDIA come around and don't want to play nice with open source, so they make it difficult, and developers have to reverse engineer whatever they can from whatever documents they can scrounge. So it's not as though, this could all, things can improve very quickly. I don't know. That's...
Yeah, well, we do know that NVIDIA did release some stuff on GitHub, right? They released some of the code, some code things. It's supposed to make integration easier in the future. I'm not really sure how that. I forgot most of that already. Schickel probably knows.
Well, they released some documentation is basically what they did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. It's taken, 15 years for them to...
It shouldn't have taken this long. It should not have. There's no question about it. It should have been done way long. They could have open sourced their drivers as well. Why haven't they? But what are you gonna do?
I was gonna say that 10 years ago, 13 years ago, these years go by too quickly. NVIDIA was actually easier to deal with than AMD.
It was
Linux.
Yep. I agree.
Way easier.
Well, I actually wrote an article about this, and that was published yesterday, about the complications with AMD on Linux and how it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And I mean, proprietary NVIDIA support on Linux is far better than proprietary AMD support. You get all the features much easier because even though it's proprietary, I mean, you don't need to worry about which kernel version you're running. You don't need to worry about it. It just installs among them as a module. Whereas with AMD, like if you want to boot into Debian and you have a new card, that's not happening for over a year plus. So, I mean, sounds cool, but it comes with caveats.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. They're definitely, I'm kind of stuck in the rolling mindset. So that's not an issue if you're on a rolling distribution, but if you are, certainly if you're on Debian, that can be an issue.
I'm on Debian and I'm running pretty decent new hardware on it, and I got a 5.8 kernel that wants to be installed on top of my 5.7.
Are you using the backports?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
I did. Dorian Dash, he had a video on how to do it. What he didn't put in the video, but I was aware of it, is he didn't tell you how to put the header in for the kernel.
Yeah. Definitely things I don't expect users to do.
So when I rebooted the machine, it rode through part of the kernel and just froze, But I had some issues that I was thinking, I was getting to the point where I wanted to learn how to remove old kernels. So I did some work ahead of time before even looking at that video and how to get to that point where I can go fishing around and see them and then remove them. So actually, I pulled it off between reading some articles and his video. It turned out pretty nice.
It's definitely doable. I think it's just one of those things where you kind of don't want to have to, rip your kernel out and swap it out for a new one, or have to do that kind
Well,
of
there's
stuff.
a lot of side effects too. First thing I noticed is my virtual box would no longer work.
Yes, because that loads via DKMS modules, and they are built alongside specific kernel versions for the features they enable.
And then it demanded that I replace my NVIDIA software.
Yep. It's a perfect solution.
Yeah, right. I thought we came a long way.
We have in some instances. Some instances. Every once in a while, something breaks and you're thrown back to the 90s.
Every once in a
The
while.
thing is that over the last few years, I've learned so much and how to find things. I can pull this off pretty decently without, bothering everybody in Telegram and being a real pest.
I don't think anybody would consider you a pest for asking for help, Dan.
Nah,
I don't think that happens.
No, I think most people enjoy that. Really.
Yep.
At least I enjoy it. I like when people call me out and say,
to do.
Yeah. Same here.
I'm just like, somebody finds me valuable a little bit.
Like when I messaged you about OpenSUSE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Said,
Or when I messaged you about Matrix.
Repo. Yes. Do that all the time. I like it.
Or about wine. Or about CAD. Or about all the other things I messaged you.
Wait, was it WHINE though that you were doing? WHINE?
Got him.
Somebody's being savage tonight.
The point is, I didn't really want to ask for help unless I exhausted all my other resources.
That's good, Dan. That's perfect.
That's always that's always a good thing to do, because if you go yourself and you have an issue and you try to find the solution to the issue on your own, you'll learn something.
Yeah, it hurts a lot more.
Right. It hurts a lot more, but you learn something. And in the future, if you encounter the same issue or a similar issue, you can very easily figure out how to fix that issue on your own. Or if somebody else has that issue, you can tell them how you fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
But if your first thing that you do when you have an issue is ask for help, yeah, you may get that help, but you're not going to learn how to fix that issue. You're not going to learn how that works. So my rule of thumb is always Google first. If I can't find the issue on Google, then I ask for help. Just always. And I try to, when other people are trying to get into software and Linux, that's what I try to teach them. Because I don't mind helping people, but if you have like one person coming to me asking for help every single day, it gets a little annoying.
But DuckDuckGo though.
I mean, sure.
I used to be a mechanic, and I used to have everybody in the shop ask me something. And after a while, it kind of go look it up. That's why they make repair books for these cars or forklifts or wherever it was.
We're not putting off a good image here, guys. We're just not.
Dan.
Okay?
Dan.
This is not a good image to have. All right. Does anybody have anything else they want to add to that discussion before we move on? All right. So we are going to, I guess, continue on with our app list. But there was an email that I don't think I got to last week, and forgive me if I read it last week. Did I read an email about Dark Reader? Anybody remember? I don't think I did.
I don't think we talked about Dark Reader.
I think.
I don't remember.
Well, we did Dark Reader in the not the last show, but the last app list show, because we did browser extensions. This came in, and I was going to talk about it, I think, last week, but then we never got to it. So
yeah, I don't think you did.
Okay, so this is from Trevor, and he says, "Hi, I just wanted to thank you guys for mentioning Dark Reader. I'm legally blind and can't stand bright lights, and this is just what I needed. So although some graphics look weird, I can finally read more comfortably. Found the podcast last year and caught up with all the podcasts. Thank you for the email, Trevor. Appreciate it. But I just want to, put that out to you guys to thank you guys for bringing up all of these great extensions, because it does actually help people. And there's a perfect example of somebody being helped by you guys just being a part of the conversation. So, yeah. So with that, we are going to continue on the app list. Now, we did browsers first, and we did browser add-ons the last time. So we are up to games. That's the category we're up to. Now, The first question has to be, this is our app list for what we would suggest people install. First of all, do we even need games as a category on here for this list? Or do we just want to put it as an honorable mention category just in case you like gaming? Because not everybody likes gaming. Like, there's some people that don't want any games installed. Nate.
Yeah, I would say honorable.
Nate, you're not a games person.
I like games, but I don't like the new games like Super Nintendo. You know,
yeah,
those
the
kind
new
of
games.
new games.
The new games, Super
Right.
Nintendo.
Mm-hmm. Game Boy,
that
Game Boy
it's-
Color, Game Boy Color.
They
yeah.
like Super Tux.
Right.
It's probably a
Games vary
must-have.
a lot in taste.
Well, this is not a must. I don't think we should have
it's
this
not a must-have?
as a must-have app list. This is just our suggested app list
Okay.
to say to people here, this is the apps that we suggest. If you were,
So if you're a gamer, this is what we would suggest, right?
I
Is that how
guess,
it
yeah.
works?
I mean, I like I said, maybe we want to name it as a optional category because not everybody wants to play games, and we have to be really careful with the games that we don't like over bloat it with, like. I mean, not to say that you would install all of these, but I guess these are our favorites out of them all. So.
I mean, there's even a distributions focused. I think someone in this group does a distribution that's focused around gaming too.
Yeah, but
I think I might be wrong. I'm probably wrong. I'm probably wrong.
Hi there, you mentioned me. Yes.
So Thomas, I'm going to
there
start
it is.
with you. You do a distribution that is based on somebody gaming. So if you were to put on this list something that you would say must be there for gaming, what would it be?
So if we're just talking about something that must be on the system for gaming on Linux, your best bet's gonna be Proton. Like,
This is your bag.
Like, seriously, you need Proton. I don't care if you use Steam or not, you need Proton because
What purpose would you need Proton for without Steam?
what exactly Proton does with Steam, running Windows games on Linux. And you can do that through Lutris. So you can totally do that. It's not hard. I think they actually make it a little bit easier to select different Proton versions. I think they even have like Glorious Eggroll versions in there. Because I've used Proton through Lutris once or twice, and I think I've seen Glorious Eggroll versions.
There is.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know, Glorious Eggroll is a developer who's made modded versions of
He's
Proton.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's made some really good changes to them.
I was confused because I was like, that sounds tasty, but what?
He's a YouTuber.
You can find his stuff at GitHub.
Yeah. All these Proton versions, he's basically just forked Proton on GitHub and just made different versions. So I always suggest that at the very least. And I also sometimes suggest looking at games that are in your distribution's native repository, because while they're not going to be at the same level as games on Steam or games on Lutris, they're very, very easy to install. They're all free, and most, if not all of them, are open source. So things like Open Arena, Mind Test, Super Tux Cart, Super Tux, and there's a handful of others that you can go check out. They're fun. They're somewhat easy to run. Like Mind Test, you can run on some pretty low-end hardware. Open Arena, you can run on slightly less low-end hardware. So even if you have like an older dual-core processor and 2 or 4 gigabytes of RAM, you can still game. It's just not as much. So those are always the two things I suggest. If I'm suggesting game-specific... Yes.
Thomas, you just suggested like 14 things.
What's your take on game
let me break
mode?
it down then, okay?
Proton?
Proton.
Counting is not a strong suit.
Then any game in your native package manager, give them a shot. If I'm talking about games specifically, Mind Test, Fallout, Sanctum 2.
What about Xenotic and
Pick one.
Ministry?
Pick one.
That's native.
Fallout 4, specifically.
I have that one.
And I'm going to actually explain why. First off, Fallout 4 is great for first-person shooter stuff. So if you're into those sorts of games, they got you covered. It's also futuristic. So if you like sci-fi games, there you go. And it's open world. So if you like exploring, if you like trying different character builds, you're set. There's something for everyone in Fallout 4. It's just a little bit graphic, unfortunately.
Can I just ask a question here? The Proton is not a game, though, is it? Proton assists with games, doesn't it?
Yes, but I always suggest it with the gaming stuff, because if you don't have it, then you can't do as much.
You can't just use Proton, though. You have to have some other intermediary to really handle it nicely, like Lutris.
Mm-hmm. And
so I would say Lutris, not Proton, just to make gaming easier.
Yes, you could also use like Proton
Not that I do
tricks or Steam, some way to interact with Proton. It doesn't really matter as long as you have a way to handle it. You're good.
Yeah, but I would say for a user, though, that's very meta to say Proton. It might be better if you actually say use Lutris, go to lutris.net or whatever it is, click here, and that takes care of all the tricks for you ultimately. So that's
the reason I don't suggest specifically Lutris is because while Lutris is fantastic, don't get me wrong there, my experience with Lutris in the games I've tried to play through it has not been the greatest. Granted, the games I've tried to play through it at the time were not well supported through any method. And I'm talking like Fortnite, Overwatch, what was the other one?
Well,
World of Warcraft. Things that are not well supported on Linux.
You should totally try World of Warcraft again. It's flawless now. Through
I will at some point.
Yeah,
I just haven't got around to it.
Overwatch, Diablo. I mean, the everything but the Modern Warfare stuff. If it's a Blizzard game, it works very well through Lutris.
All except Call of Duty.
But so that's an Activision title, right? I mean, I know they're the same,
is.
but
It is.
But right. So like, yeah, definitely not.
Man. All right, Big Pod, go ahead. Big Pod?
Me.
There you are.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go.
Okay, for Linux, I don't game much on Linux, but for me, for games, what I need is GNOME games. It brings a bunch of nice time killer games like solitaire, chess, and stuff like that. Basically, stuff with which to kill time. And nice to play on stream if you want everybody to leave.
Right.
Sounds like Big Pod is the gameriest gamer here.
Definitely not.
Dan.
That'll probably go to me and Leo. We play, old school solitaire. We use the actual deck of cards.
Oh
Right?
yeah, on a table or concrete, something like that. Yeah. Oh,
But then you have to like shuffle them
yeah,
That's a lot of
manually,
work.
like yeah.
manually. Is there like a button on the card to shuffle?
Nope.
No. You have to,
You know,
you have to learn. You have to
you-
take some time and learn how to shuffle. It's
You can
actually
buy-
very, very therapeutic.
You could totally buy the mechanical shuffler DLC, but yeah, not quite.
That spoils all the fun.
I was going to say solitaire. That's the only game I don't like playing by myself.
Gotta have that
Dan.
input. Player 2.
Dan Kelly. Yeah, well, you got your hand raised.
Okay. I wanted to say, along with the Fallout 4, there's also the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. That is a really great game. Both them games are produced, I believe, by Bethesda or something like that. I can't quite pronounce their name. The only thing you have to do is check with Proton D, and there's a small string you got to put in the command line to get the sound to work right. But Elder Scrolls, you get so much content with that game. I've been playing it since July, and I still haven't come near the end of it. And I got like 200 hours into it. The trucking games work pretty good out of the box. The simulators. I haven't tried The Witcher 3 yet, but I had it. Each one of these games were like $15 in July when Steam had their sale.
Well, Dan, this is more of what you already know you would want to put on this list. This is more of a list of you're letting somebody know this is what you should probably install, or this is what we suggest you install.
Oh, as far as tools?
No, as far as games.
That's what I was recommending, that them games do work in Steam.
Okay.
And for the money, when they go on sale, you can't beat them. I'm not trying to feed you a bunch of old garbage. I'm trying to, tell you that these games work on, I'm using pretty much LMDE for souped up with the back ports and Steam, and I have the glorious egg roll stuff. I even have game mode installed.
Yeah, I would agree that Steam is really good as far as like, I'm not admitting I play games, although I did write my list down in the show notes. But yeah, I agree that Steam has got some really great way to play games, and if you're gonna game in Linux, you may as well just install Steam. So Steven, what have you got to lay on us for games?
Nothing revolutionary. I would just say that for me, it has to be a Super Tux, just because it's the historical Linux game. And if you're new to Linux, everybody needs to experience Super Tux.
Okay.
Yeah. Musical Coder, what have you got for us?
I've got two for you. One is a game, Frozen Bubble.
Yes.
That was when I very first got into Linux. That's the game I installed, and I lost days and days and days in that game just playing it. It's just one of those great little games that they're great. As for a tool for games, I would say Game Hub, which is great if you use itch.io, or if you use Humble Bundle to get games, or if you use Steam, or you use Good Old Games to buy any games. That is Game Hub is a great platform to get them involved, get them downloaded on Linux, and get them running in Linux.
Pretty good shout. Game Hub. I haven't heard that in a little while, actually. Leah, what do you suggest?
For game, are we doing 1 and 1? Is that the deal?
No, you do whatever you think should be on this list.
Buy one, get one.
All right, here's 65 things. Hang on.
Right, but
Here
don't be Thomas and try to pick 14. 2 will be enough.
All right, so the game I need you to put on this list is the Command and Conquer, the new one that I can't remember the name of it specifically, but it has Command and Conquer Red Alert built into it. It's the new EA one they put out. Well, I say new, it's like 6 months old. It works fantastic through Proton. Oh, so excited that I didn't have to reboot into Windows to play this game. So good. And the other thing is Lutris, man. It runs all the things. You look up stuff in Proton DB. Okay, I've totally just rattled off about 1 billion things now, though. So, but Lutris for sure. Proton DB. Check out Proton DB for how good games run in Lutris or in Steam. And man, yeah, that's it. Command and Conquer, Lutris, Proton DB.
And was that Command and Conquer? You're talking about the Command and Conquer remastered collection?
That's the one.
That's it.
Yes, yes. Oh, that's my childhood. I had to relive all of it. I'm still reliving all of it. It's so good.
Yeah, well, Lutris has that cute little weasel mascot as well, so that's.
And it fits so perfectly next to the Firefox icon.
It does. Yeah.
This is how we make app suggestions.
Everybody seems to have this game where they do a full circle and keep playing it for the rest of their lives, or go back to it now and then.
Well, if they revamp Command and Conquer again in 15 years, I'll buy it again.
Absolutely. I love the Red Alert 2 and Red Alert 2. Yes, I love the strategy RTS games. Love them.
When they remaster Generals, I'll pay them $100. Seriously, like that's a game I would just throw money at people.
Don't tell them that.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, seriously. If I tell them
It's
that and they
done.
want to take my $100, they can totally have it. And I just want to remaster Generals, make it happen.
What
I
if
see
it's
your $100 and I give you
101?
50.
What if it's $101?
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll just pretend it's tax.
All right.
Computer kid.
So, I don't really game, but I just wanted to say of open source games you could find your repo, Xenotic and Mindustry are both really fun. I think both of them, well, no, not Xenotic, but with Mindustry, if you do want to support them, you can actually like buy it on Steam, and then you get the Steam Remote Play and all that stuff. But those both really good games. Destination Linux has started doing a lot of Xenotic recently. And then also on Frozen Bubble, I saw it in the list. I opened it. Don't try that game unless you have your earbuds or headphones or whatever muted, because it goes to 100% and makes very loud game music. It hurt my ears. Don't do it.
All right. Anybody else want to get in on the games section? Barb,
I think
go ahead.
Barbara has.
I have a couple. I'm not a big gamer, and I, when you guys start talking about games, it just kind of my eyes glaze over. But that's just me. Don't worry about it. But there are a bunch of terminal games that Alan Pope has put up in the Snap Store. If you've tried any of those, some of them are a riot. They are fun. They're silly, and I enjoy those. Just for something to do for a little while, or like to clear my brain or something. And the others that I actually think that not everybody's a big gamer, but let me see what I wrote here in the okay. I think if you put a lot of people play Sudoku, and I have 2 or 3 versions on my phone. There are a couple of versions that are available, in Linux. And I'll riot Solitaire because it has a gazillion different Solitaire games. So that's it from a non-gamer.
Okay. Very nice.
Solitaire is good.
It is.
So I'm going to put in Steam because nobody actually mentioned it. We went through this whole list and people mentioned it, but nobody suggested it be on the list. I don't know how we go through a list about gaming on Linux.
It's assumed at
and
this point.
Steam is not on that list, but
got to be assumed.
It's got my vote too, Rocco.
I'm pretty sure Nate mentioned it.
Yeah.
Nate mentioned Steam. I'm sure
he mentioned it, but it wasn't one of his picks to be on the list.
So I haven't actually given you my picks yet.
Why haven't you?
I was gonna go at the very end, like kind of to wrap this segment up.
It's too late now, dude. It's too late.
Kind of tried to seem.
It's too late.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I'll go anyway. So I'm just gonna give my top number 1 right now, and I partially blame like people like Adam Grubbs for this, and to a lesser extent, actually it's Schickel, but and my kids. But I've gotten into playing some of these Pokemon games with them, and so Visual Boy Advance, and I'll put a link in. I did a little article, a little write up on that, not to pat myself on the back, but it is the best Game Boy emulator for Linux, or actually any platform. But you can. So whatever your brand of nostalgia is for playing the Game Boy in the handheld. So if you want like the puke green, it's not Sousa green, it's puke green, or the LCD screen, or if you want to have like the Game Boy Color look with the kind of the washed out, or if you want like a Super Game Boy, like this style, you can play any of those. You can go border or borderless, whatever works for you. And so it's a really good Game Boy experience on Linux, and it runs smooth. It's great. And so if you like any of that, like, nostalgic gaming, it's a good choice. Pokemon Red, been playing it for a little bit. I got a Charizard now. Really excited about that. So, there we go.
Nate, you forgot one. to just, it's not puke green. It's Bug Splat or Bug Squash. If you are a quilter or know somebody who is a quilter, they refer to that color as Bug Splat or Bug Squash.
Okay, bug squash. I will add that to my lexicon and remove. I'll do a remove of that other puke one. So
I mean, it's a little bit more polite, bug splat.
I don't think
Bug
we
splat,
need to be polite
Either
to
one.
green. I don't like green.
Oh,
Yes, we do.
Green looks
Poor
beautiful on
Kermit.
trees and.
Don't let Anna Rita hear you say that, Rocco.
I don't care.
Well,
All right.
if I could,
You heard it
drop-
here. That's why the Linux Mint episode went the way it did.
Oh goodness.
Oops. Sorry. Chickle, what's your picks, dude?
It's all Rocco's fault, man.
Usually
so
is.
This probably isn't a surprise to anyone, but Minecraft runs great on Linux, and I highly recommend it. And also, this is for my mom because she loves playing solitaire games as well. There's an application called KPAT, which is a solitaire collection.
Yep.
And the reason I really like it is because it scales really well to like any display. And with my bad habits of buying stupid displays, my mom couldn't play some of the other ones, so KPAT saved me.
Yep.
Cool.
Anytime I was on a KDE, and you don't have to be on a KDE, I don't think, but anytime I was on a KDE thing, KPAT was like one of the first things I installed. Yep. All right, anybody else who wants to get in on the gaming? Dan, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my vote is Steam because that is the place. You know, everybody needs that. That's on the list, and it's got to be. The game I like Civilization, and I kind of grew up on. Well, not really, but I really liked 5. 5 was my favorite, but 6 is good. That's the newer version. So Civilization, that's it.
Very nice.
Hard agree with Civ 6 specifically.
6 is good. I like it.
Anybody remember Warcraft 2: Tides of Darkness from like the early '80s?
Yeah.
Is there a reason why nobody mentioned the best game of all time?
It's Descent. It should have been mentioned. I know.
No.
Because you
That
can't
would
play
have
it
to
on
be the
Linux.
snake.
You can't play it on
Why
Linux.
did we not mention Half-Life 2?
Oh,
like why is Half-Life 2 not even on this list?
Because Half-Life 3 is not out yet.
Oh my gosh.
Never heard of it.
The
Waiting.
best game of all time, I think, and it's not even on the list.
Although I do agree with Nate, I love Descent. I loved all of them, 1, 2, and 3. It was I love the whole series. Basically, Doom in a spaceship.
Yes, but more awesome.
All right. So the question is, what do we do with this list here? So we have a list of, I mean, the idea of this list is to do best of best. Okay. So when we did the browsers, we had Firefox got the first vote with 12, Chrome had 4, Brave had 3. So basically our top 3 browsers were Firefox, Chrome, Brave, and that's it. So the question is, how do we go about doing this game section? Because everybody picked like a specific game maybe, or so we can't have a list of like 14,000 games on here.
Could
Well,
just say Steam and
99.9% of those games are probably going to boil down to Steam, because half the games are probably going to be play them through Steam. So Steam is probably going to get the top of the list as far as where to play the games, where to get the games themselves, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
You
Steam
could
and
just keep
Lutris.
Steam and Lutris.
I was gonna say just put Steam and Lutris on the list.
Because they're the only ones that got more than 1 vote.
They
at the
are.
top.
Everything else got 1 vote. So
Well, you need
Which is
you need one
what
or the
we
other,
did with
right?
browser extensions. If you didn't get more than 1 vote, you were an honorable mention.
maybe we can put the Steam and Lutris at the top of the list, and then maybe leave these here as just individual game suggestions.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, game suggestions that Rocco's going to gift everybody sometime
The
through
Biddle
Steam.
game suggestions.
Right? We'll give away one of these games every month. How's that?
And then you try and give away Xenotic and Mindustry, which are both free and open source.
We can still give it away, Computer Kid. That doesn't mean we're not making any money off of it. Can still give it away because it's free.
You missed out the snake game from the Nokia phone, Rocco.
Oh my gosh.
That was a good game.
All right. Do we want to add anything to the gaming section? Like, is there anything we want to add? Just leave it the way it is, or what?
Retro
Yes.
Arch.
I would add a small note. Any retro game from the 80s is viable to go on this list.
Arch Linux.
Just say all the emulators and all the ROMs.
I was gonna say, Leo, do you think we need a subcategory of emulators?
Yeah, just throw Batacera on there and call it a night. That's it.
Yeah.
This could probably make an entire separate list of its own, to be honest. Also, DruggerOS should probably be on there, but I'm biased, so.
Hold on, let me think. No, it shouldn't be on there. It's a distro, okay?
Rocco, I have a theory. And
tell
this
me.
is how we weed people out. We can send the list to everybody and have them print it out. See whose printers are actually working, as like a competition to see to see how well things are going for us.
Are we gonna fax it back, or I mean, what's the plan there?
See what
happens. I don't have a fax.
It may be out of toner, but it does work.
Yeah.
Same.
Just scan it and then send it back as a PDF.
Right.
I don't have a scanner. I just have a printer.
Heck, I can do that on my phone using Google Drive or Google
There you go.
Documents.
So
I don't need a printer for that.
Do we want to add a gaming emulator section, like a subcategory of the games, or no?
I don't think it's necessary. I think once you need an emulator, you kind of immediately find what you're looking for, because the best ones always show up first most of the time, just because it's a more isolated market, like with Wii and GameCube, it's usually always Dolphin, and with on Linux with N64, it's like Muppin 64, Muppet 64, something like that. I don't know. I don't think it needs its own category because they're usually fairly simple.
If you want to include something like Dosbox for people who want to run old DOS games, that's a possibility there too.
You mean
Scum VM?
As in the gaming list or as a subsection?
Well, if you're listing Steam and Lutris, they enable gameplay. DOSBox likewise would enable gameplay, but for much more classic DOS games. So,
all right, we're adding that to the list. All right, the next category is going to be, and I think we can maybe get through this next category in the time we got left. It will be Office programs, and that I guess includes suites. That includes document handlers, text editors, I guess. Or do we want to separate text editors from Office?
So here's the question: is what do we do since we've got stuff like somebody put Vi in Office, and then we've got Atom in development?
Well, I think we need to. Separate everything out of Office that's not an Office program, in my opinion.
And then where should we put it?
Can't write a PDF. Get it out of here.
Maybe you need to have Office productivity software, the Office suites, and then text editors and Markdown editors and so on.
Yeah, I don't think Vi and Nano should be in Office.
Have a separate thing for the Markdown, because I wouldn't put them in there with Atom or anything like that.
Ghostwriter.
You know that as soon as you're like, we'll take Vi out of Office, and someone's going to be like, yeah, but there's totally a plugin where you can.
I know there's totally a plugin, but that's not where it's
or whatever.
Same thing would happen with eval.
All right, so we got to get Vi and Nano out of there. Inkscape in Office.
No. That doesn't.
No.
Graphic.
Okay.
I don't even know what Inkscape is, so whatever.
Okay.
Inkscape is a very good PDF editor, actually, Rocco.
Is it? I thought it was like GIMP for SVG.
No, it edits PDFs very well.
But the question is
LibreOffice Draw also will allow you to edit PDFs.
Mm-hmm. Both Inkscape and GIMP will allow you to edit PDFs, but that's not their main function.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's just an auxiliary function because of the simple fact that PDFs aren't documents; they're images, and just people treat them as documents.
Yeah, it's like how you can launch Blender in Steam, but I wouldn't install Steam for Blender.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I think Inkscape should be any program should be in its main category, not in its just I can do this category. And you definitely don't want it in multiple categories either, I don't think. So all right, Office. So go around the horn here. Donnie. Top Office program.
I use actually FreeOffice. So it's very close to Microsoft Office. Does everything I need. I actually pay for their yearly subscription, and it works great.
Okay. Oh my gosh, there's so many people working on the docket. I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it. I'm just leaving it the way it is. Okay, free. So 1 vote for free office. Come on. I'm just, if nobody puts their hand up, I'm just gonna start picking people. Dan.
Yeah, let me find the mute button first. Wow.
Which Dan?
Sorry,
Dan?
sorry, Dan
Both of
Kelly.
them at the same time.
Dan Simmons.
All right, I'm gonna go LibreOffice.
All right, 1 vote for LibreOffice, 1 vote for free office, and we are going to continue on. MC.
I'm gonna have to go free office. It's just it's for those who have to deal with Excel documents or DocX, the newer Microsoft formats. Free office is much better at opening and reading those than LibreOffice is. Although LibreOffice is getting better, it's still not there yet for some of the advanced features that are in DocX and XLSX files. So,
right. Yep. Well, that's what I would say. That's good that you mentioned that, because just like before, we need to not only say our pick, but we really need to say why we're picking it. You know, like why we would choose that over something else. So if you're going to pick one, at least let us know why.
Well, and yeah, I would say, you know, not to divide up a vote or anything like that, but if you don't deal with heavy Microsoft Excel or documents, then LibreOffice is great. LibreOffice has everything you need. It's you've got a snap for it. Pretty much every distro has it in their repository, so it's easy to install. But if you do need to do stuff with, especially with Excel documents, when you have some advanced formulas and things working in the spreadsheet, having free office to open those up and recognize those at a much better conversion ratio is really the way you're going to need to go.
Sure, I'll buy that. Jinda, go. What do you got?
I use LibreOffice. I don't, but I use it so rarely.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Dan Kelly?
I have LibreOffice installed. The system came with LibreOffice 6, but I did the backport experiment and shoved it up to 7, but I normally don't use it unless I need to read something.
Okay. Yep.
I'm not an Office kind of guy.
Yeah, me neither. I get it. Nate, what do you got?
Primarily, I use LibreOffice because it does. I do a lot of stuff with Office documents. I create a lot of product for because I home educate my kids, so I create a lot of product and whatnot. You know, like when we're learning the senses, the 5 main senses. I know it probably sounds really elementary to you. Well, that's because they're elementary age kids. But so I create a lot of things, and I tend to use LibreOffice the most. I tried FreeOffice, but it did like really weird things. Like I'd format stuff, and then it would just format it not how I like, and so I got rid of FreeOffice. But yeah, LibreOffice seems to work the best for me. So how about you, Thomas? What do you use?
Well, I don't do a lot of Office stuff anymore, but when I do, I tend to go for LibreOffice. And that's a recent development. Up until I graduated high school, it was Google Drive all the time because of collaboration. LibreOffice, you can't collaborate with people. Google Drive, you can. So what I'm going to do is my vote's going for Google Drive reluctantly because in my experience, it has better compatibility with Microsoft Office than anything else. And it understands LibreOffice stuff too, so I can give it an ODT. It's fine. And I can work on the same document with a bunch of other people simultaneously, which is a feature that basically the only other thing you could do that with would be Nextcloud Hub, I think is what they're calling it now.
Yeah,
And
Microsoft Teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, Microsoft.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, not to interject there, but as far as like for collaboration goes, I'm actually gonna have to say Microsoft Teams has kind of got Google beat at this point because you have a lot more options as far as collaboration. So check it out, maybe. Eris.
Microsoft.
I don't make a lot of Office documents. I try to go more text-based. And then if I do use Office, I go with LibreOffice. But if I need to go with compatibility, I would just upload to Google, to Microsoft Online.
Okay.
Very interesting. So that's what, 2 or 3 for Microsoft now. Vince, what do you use?
So a really, really long time ago, I suggested that everyone around me start using OpenOffice. This is way, way, way back before LibreOffice was even a thing. And since then, people around me, I'm talking about work, my family, and such. And so we've all since moved to LibreOffice, and I'm happy there. Everything works there. It edits PDFs, and that's all I'm happy about.
Nice. Computer Kid?
So, do we have to pick one? Like, are we allowed to do, is this multiple choice or one?
I think because of this category being limited to how many programs are in it, I think we should just pick one.
Huh, okay. Because it depends for me. If I'm writing a school paper, I'll usually pop open LibreOffice and just make a LibreOffice ODT, ODF, whatever. And then if I want to make presentation like slides, then I'll go to Google Drive because they just seem to do that better. But I also want to move. I'm still working on this. Once my self-hosted Nextcloud gets fully operational, I want to move to Nextcloud for cloud-based, or for actually most document. So I think tentatively my vote's gonna go with LibreOffice because if you're making documents, it just works.
All right. Paul.
Definitely LibreOffice. In fact, I just switched my dad over because he got a new computer and we couldn't put the 2010 version of Microsoft on there. It wouldn't allow us. So I had to switch him over to Libre. And so far, it's good.
Okay. One more vote for LibreOffice. Esnix.
I don't do a whole lot with Office suites, but LibreOffice covers my needs just fine. I don't bring anything but simple Word documents or occasional spreadsheets home, and they've all opened just fine in LibreOffice. So,
gotcha. Tony?
When I was on Windows 10, many moons ago, I used LibreOffice. When I changed over to Linux, I started off with LibreOffice and then I switched to WPS Office, which I really like. But there were 1 or 2 issues with it, so I switched back and have been on LibreOffice ever since. So my vote should really go to LibreOffice.
Okay. Colin?
Yeah, I use LibreOffice, and the reason for that is because I don't really do anything that's complex in regards to being compatible with anything else. So I just go with the default, which is the LibreOffice. It's good enough for me.
LibreOffice is getting all the votes.
I know.
Very popular.
I see it.
Shickle, what do you use?
Oh, well, this probably isn't a surprise to anyone, but I use Google Drive, Google Docs. I've been using it since I was in school. I remember just towards the end of middle school, Google Docs became the standard for all of our schoolwork. So everything and anything was turned in Google Docs. So we were doing school projects where we could collaborate, and that is one of the big features of it. We could all edit a paper at once. We could all edit PowerPoints at once. We could write our articles at once. And they have everything from PDF controls to graphing to spreadsheets to PowerPoints. Well, I guess PowerPoint's TM, but whatever. I really just think that it is probably the way forward for a lot of people, especially as we move towards more connected tasks. It's easier to send. You don't really have to worry about formats. That's why I love it.
Cool, cool. Jason, what do you use?
Well, for the most part, I don't do anything like most of us here, or at least a lot of us. I don't do anything super Office intensive stuff. But I mostly use, like Shickle, I mostly use Google Docs, mainly because it's, it's on all my devices. It's on my iPad, iPhone, Windows PC, Mac, everything. So it's all, across all my different devices and stuff, so I can do something on one device, and then I go into another room, bring my laptop, sit down, I can just continue on, no problem. So it's definitely Google Drive or Google Docs.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate that. Barbara, what do you use for your Office needs?
LibreOffice. I don't, for what I do, I really don't need like what Microsoft Office can do. And I like that it's also cross-platform because I use it on my Mac also. So LibreOffice.
That makes sense. Steven, how about you?
To everybody's surprise, LibreOffice. It's
no fooling.
Yeah, it's good. It's full featured. It's free. It's available everywhere. I think unless you have some very specific needs, LibreOffice is, to me, is kind of the obvious choice.
Okay. KB?
I just use whatever I can get. It's usually either LibreOffice.
Whatever's installed, you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. You know what? I am the same exact way. Like, I don't install an Office program. If it's installed, I'll use it. But if it's, just whatever. All right, DJ.
Well, I started out on NROF and TROF and moved to Tech. I still use Tech, but LibreOffice mostly today.
All right. Leo, did you go?
Google Drive. It's what we use at work.
Did you say Google Drive on a Linux show?
Oh, yeah.
Dude?
I'll say it again.
Wow.
The Google Drives. Totally. The only thing I need an Office suite for is collaboration. It's the only thing I need it for. Otherwise, I'm writing in Markdown. So, it's the best for that. And as far as runner-up, the Office Online, man.
Look, Google Docs is something that I use a lot, and that's partially why I don't need a local program.
I rip it out. I rip it out.
I don't rip it out. I just don't use it. I just don't need it because Google Drive does or Google Docs does what I need it to do. So, yeah, what are you gonna do?
Use it.
That's it. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, did we get everybody?
Donnie? Did we get Donnie?
What was the first one? Free Office.
Oh, yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, so
Yep.
is the...
I think we did get everybody then, yeah.
Here is the tally. So, obviously, LibreOffice comes out on top with 14 votes. And, that's not surprising because, it has a great reputation. And if, as MC said, if you don't need it for, specific... documents that have a ton of different multiple charts in them and things. If it's just regular stuff, LibreOffice works great. And there's nothing that I don't think there's anything that it can't do, barring some documents that won't open because of formatting. But it does everything else. So I'm not surprised in that at all. Google Docs came in second on a Linux show. That's very scary, but it's true that it does work well. And it's partially
Google
my
runs their servers on Linux, right?
Yeah.
it's partially
There's
my fault because
Linux
I voted,
somewhere,
gave it a
yeah.
vote. Free Office came in third with 2 votes, and then other ones were now. I did want to mention there was mentioned ABBYY and I guess it's G-numeric. That's the only way I've ever said it. Those are 2 bare bones Word and Excel programs that have been around forever. And if you don't have anything that, like I said, has major formatting in them, they'll be fine. They're kind of old, I guess, and they do have trouble with newer formatting and stuff like that. But if you're not doing anything very often and you just need to open a basic Word document or a basic Excel document, both of them are great choices. And I know that my dad still prefers ABBYY and G-numeric to open documents like that. So, yeah. Anybody? Do we need anything else for this category? So, how are we doing this? Are we going to put up just LibreOffice and Google Docs? Do the others get a honorable mention, or do we just put the top 2 up and be done with it?
You know, I really think that it's unfortunate that Office 365, and I'm sorry I'm saying this, Thomas, but Office 365 is actually really, when it comes to collaboration, online, like document stuff.
It is.
That's actually really nice. It's a lot more featured than. It's a lot more featured. Sorry about that. Than Google Docs. And also, if you need to run it locally, like if like the document just can't be handled by the web, whatever, you can actually load it locally as well and do that. So it's not just this like whatever goofy file that sits in the location. It actually has the actual file right there. So it's I think it's really pretty awesome.
Let me tell you why it's not. Let me tell you why it's not better than Google Docs. And, I mean, functionality wise, it probably is superior. Everybody has a Gmail. The end.
Pretty much.
That and Google Docs. If I remember correctly, isn't the Office 365 a subscription-based thing where you actually have to pay?
Not the free one. You there's a free tier.
Also, with Google Drive, any native Google Drive file doesn't contribute to your storage quota. So you can essentially have infinite Google Drive files and be using 0 of your storage. It's everything that's a non-native file that does contribute.
On top of that, it offers a feature to convert all of your existing documents to native Google Drive formats. So anything you've already worked on is already free.
Yep.
Don't worry about the borked up formatting. Yeah, sure, that's fine.
And most of the time, if you're converting a Microsoft formatted document to Google Drive format, it formats it correctly. It's things like ODTs and ODFs that it has an issue with.
I've had the opposite experience, actually. ODTs always work just fine for me. And what LibreOffice would bork up as far as a Microsoft document messes up, that's what Google Drive would trip up on as well.
Completely different for me. Granted, I was like one of 2 people who had LibreOffice installed. So most of what I tend to work with gets put into Microsoft Office so everybody else can use it and not get the whole, this file may be corrupted. Are you sure you want to open it error? Because Microsoft Office is stupid.
Okay.
I'm just sensing some hate.
I mean, like, really?
I agree with Nate, actually. I love Microsoft Office 365. That's
good.
Great.
It's my runner-up every time.
It's also catchy. 365.
Makes you think of like something like in time. I can't recall what 365. It's a number. It means something. I can't place
I
it.
added another vote for LibreOffice because of going through the YouTube chat. So I think probably we should leave off these other ones. I'm guessing.
Yes.
Sure. The way OMG Ubuntu did their list was they gave you the one app that, and we're going to give 2 or 3 depending on what our category is, but they gave you the one app, and then at the very bottom they did honorable mentions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we want to do honorable mentions at the bottom, but I don't think we need like every possible choice in this. It's more just for the best ones, the best of the best. So I think we would be fine having just LibreOffice and Google Docs as the top 2.
Well,
Sounds
third
fair.
place was like way down there, right?
Yeah.
With free
Yeah,
office with
just-
2. So yeah, down there.
All right. I don't think we're going to get through another category here. We got 10 minutes left.
Let's hustle.
Anybody got anything they want to talk about for 10 minutes? Leo?
I mean, I tried to shove it in, but it was at the end of the last one.
What?
Linux Mint Web App Manager, and Linux Mint's going to be.
Do it.
So the Web App Manager is great, but
What is the web
browsers that
map?
You can,
Web App Manager. What is that, Leo?
it's an application that you can use to basically run, say, Twitter or YouTube or whatever, just in a window and not in a full browser, and it'll give you an icon that you can shove over there into your panel as well. So you click it, it's YouTube in a browser. But here's the better part: Chromium is back in Linux Mint, and everybody said, "Why don't they just package it up themselves?" And so they did.
It's about time.
Wow.
You're
Look at
right.
them
Not
doing
good.
work.
Totally agree.
So we didn't need this whole Snap Chromium situation,
Kerfuffle?
right? We could have just kerfuffle. Yeah, thank you, Nate. We didn't need that. We could have just done this from the very beginning.
Hey man, I'm not Clem. I'm
Wow,
just saying you can
really?
install Chromium now, and it's the latest one. It's not the Debian
So
weirdness that you
they're
get with
going
Pop.
to package it themselves, right?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, they go so far as to make the search Yahoo.
Oh,
so horrible. I hate that so much.
So the Web
Couldn't
App
make it-
Manager. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Donnie, but they couldn't make DuckDuckGo the default. They had to do Yahoo.
That's what I do. It's option number 2. I do it every single time. I avoid Google, and I surely avoid Yahoo.
Right.
It's straight to DuckDuckGo every time.
Yep. All right, Donnie. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, so is the Web App Manager, is it a fork of ICE?
It is. So as far as I know, Clem is working with the ICE devs to add some features to it. So I think ICE is going to benefit from this as well.
Cool.
Okay.
That's
And
good to
Yeah,
hear.
because I was wondering why they're not using ICE and they're just forking ICE.
Clem actually wrote why in the monthly news this last month for Linux Mint. I can't remember off the top of my head why he said it was some kind of features, like he needed it to integrate better with Cinnamon or something like that.
Okay.
But ICE was not easy to install on other distributions besides Peppermint. So
And
I
this
know
is
you
why
had,
you needed the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I know you had to have, like I had to have the specific version of the dev file, and it wasn't the most recent one either, or it wouldn't install. It just wouldn't. It needed something, and I don't remember. It's been a while, and I don't remember what it was, but you had to have a specific version. So, I always asked the guys there, Mark and some of the other guys, about why it wasn't available on other distributions, and they really had no desire to make it available for other distributions. So it was available for Peppermint, and that's basically what they wanted to leave it as. So I think it's awesome to be able to that Linux Mint is doing this. But the question is, are we going to be able to install it anywhere, Leo?
My vote would be yes, because Warpinator can be installed anywhere via Flatpak. So I would bet money that Web App Manager, give it a couple of months. Once it's stable on Linux Mint, it'll just get rolled into a Flatpak and everybody can have it.
I think they already packaged a deb file for it, so you can.
They do. They have a right now in that blog post. They have a deb for the Web App Manager, so you can beta test it, and they have a deb for the Chromium.
But it's not final release or anything like that.
No, it's still beta. So I mean, I'm using it. I've had it crash a couple of times, but I think it was just because when you load up JavaScript heavy things, like even Firefox or Chrome would crash on some of that stuff.
Right.
Well, this is particularly beneficial. Wow, for Firefox, because they don't have a native web app ability. So this kind of gives you the ability to have that without dropping into a terminal and trying to spawn Firefox instances in a weird way.
Exactly.
Like that's a huge thing, because I've seen people switch from Firefox just for that feature. So for them to be able to use their browser of choice without missing that is huge.
Yeah, and I just can't stand having 85,000 tabs open where, I mean, all I'm
Yeah.
going off of is an icon and I have to
Right.
like scroll to figure out where stuff
That's
is.
horrible.
This is great. I want YouTube. I click the YouTube button that I pinned on my taskbar, and all it is YouTube. And yeah, it's fantastic. And I had made the joke at the end of the last Mintcast that once Microsoft Edge is available on Linux, then you'll be able to use Web App Manager to launch Microsoft Edge, to go to office365.com, and you basically get Microsoft Office on the desktop in Linux.
Yeah. And on top of that, what's really cool for any of you guys who aren't familiar with PWAs, if you click on links inside of it, it's not gonna like do this weird, stupid thing where it like will just load into new pages inside of the application. The application will stay restricted to the program you're using and open links you click on in the right browser. So like that's a huge thing. That used to be an issue. It doesn't do that anymore. So it is like having an app, which is just lovely.
Very nice. All right, that's going to wrap it up. We are going to have to get to the last words or we'll be way over time. Dan Simmons, last word.
Thanks, Rocco. I know it's a tough one. You had 2 shows today, so extra work. I really appreciate you being here so we can have great conversation every week after week. So thank you.
Well, to go along with that, my man Dan Simmons, I'm not going to be here next week because I'm going to be taking a trip up to New York and visiting someone special. And Dan Simmons is going to take over and stream for me. So I don't know if I'll be able to join or not, but I definitely won't be able to host the stream. But Dan's going to take over and you guys won't know the difference. So thank you for that, Dan.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, MC.
Same as earlier. Just grateful to have a place where we can have everyone can have a discussion, simple discussion on all their different opinions on what they think is great for a perfect distro, as well as what games we want to play. Or now I'm going to look at that list and go games I want to try, and other things. So it's just great to come back here week after week.
We're creating more stuff for you to do, dude. All right, Jinda, last word.
Thank you, everybody. Oh, by the way, I'd like to mention this podcast called Linux User Space, maybe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that,
Yeah,
Jinda.
I think you guys should try it out.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Dan Kelly, have you ever heard of Linux User Space?
Yes, and I have. We built this city.
Nice. Last word, Dan.
Awesome show, Rocco. A lot of good discussion here. Even I watched the European one too. That one the subjects just went on and on and on. Like everybody was into that. And thank you for putting on the show like you do every week. And with that said, move on.
Nate, last word.
Hey, thanks for doing this, Rocco. It's fun. You know, I get to hang out with my my Linux buddies virtually it's a good time. You know, get to talk about all the nerdy stuff that if I bring it up anywhere else, they look at you like you got a lobster growing out of your forehead.
Right.
And you know, it's great. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thomas, last word.
Thanks.
Oh, got him.
But in all seriousness, though, thank you for doing this every week. I know it's probably a pain in the butt sometimes. And I finally fixed some bugs that have been plaguing Drugger OS. So huzzah. I'll have, if anybody wants to like help me make sure I've got those bugs out, I might be willing to make a development ISO and share the link to it. So, you know, ping me if you're interested on Telegram. Have a good one.
Aris, last word.
Thank you very much for the stream and for the commitment to come and make the stream every week. Thank you very much to Rocco and everybody involved. Also, I want to mention that Dolphin said that Web App Manager is in the MX test repo.
Nice.
And one last thing, Dan Kelly reminded me about how he said that he's a mechanic and he gets all those questions. I think we've all been there when they're like, "Oh, so you know about computers? I got some questions I want to ask."
Yes, we have.
Right.
Eris, thank you very much for watching the chat like you do and bringing up things that I miss. I appreciate that. Tony, sir, last word.
Yeah, great show. Enjoyed both of them. I understand it's a lot more work for you to do both, but I really appreciate the fact that you do the European version. You said it won't be much different next week because you won't be here. I think it might be because it should all run smooth. We shouldn't have any problems. Just thought I'd mention that.
Tony, when have you known this show to run smooth without problems?
When you're not here. No, that's true. It's all part of the fun.
I get it.
Anyway, take care, stay safe, everybody. Next week, have a good trip, Rocco, and look forward to seeing you when you get back the following week.
Vince, last word.
Yeah, before I came on today, the girls asked me, "What are you doing, Daddy?" And I said, "I'm going Biddle." And they said, "Why?" And I said, "Because it makes me happy." And it does. So thank you. See you next week.
See you, time traveler. Colin, last word.
Yeah, well, I just got back from the future anyway, so
Right.
Thanks, Rock and Co.
Another one?
Thanks, Rock and Co, for the platform here. Great discussions tonight. Everyone have a great week and see you all next week. And yeah, enjoy your trip, whatever you're up to, Rocco.
Yeah, visiting a girlfriend. So, Schickle, last word.
Well, I'd like to give a shout out to my emotional support animal this episode, Bluebell ice cream and chocolate syrup.
Right.
Thanks for having me, man.
Donnie, last word.
Thank you, Rocco, for having me. Great show. Every week I say this week was the best week, and next week you just surprise us with new subjects that make it even better. So thank you.
Perfect. Paul, last word.
Thanks for having me on, guys. A place where we can learn and talk about Linux, because when I talk about it to my family, they look at me like blank stare. So thanks a lot.
Yep. Esnick's last word.
Thank you, Rock. Thank you, everyone else. Exactly what Paul said. There's no one else I can really talk to about Linux and enjoy it. So
You're always welcome, Esnix. Jason,
thank you very much.
Last word.
Well, as usual, I just want to say thank you to everybody that that works on the show, that makes the show happen. Those that Rocco, and those that help out, like Dan Schickle and Nate and whomever else I might be missing that helps out with the show. I definitely wanted to also mention that this may be my last show for a very, very long time. We're finishing up the training for, so work started back up with Apple again, as you can see the nice little work computer right here. And we're finishing up this week. We'll figure out what our schedule is. More than likely, I'll have to work. It's either going to be more than likely either Saturday or Sunday or both. So if I have to work both, then I'll be able to watch the show, but won't be here inside the Zoom meeting because I'll have to have it on on my computer, my home computer. But I'm technically not supposed to have those on while I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
Shh, don't tell anybody. But yeah, so I might not be able to participate like in the Zooms anymore. But
It's
I'll
just
at
a
least watch
couple.
it.
It's just us here, dude. So don't worry about it. Nobody will know.
Yeah, it's not being recorded or anything. Don't worry.
Yep.
All right.
But anyway, so again, I'm just love these shows. Get together, get everybody here, both the with the European one once a month, and then this one, just be able to have all these great discussions. It's just great to lay back, sit back, whatever you want to call it, and just enjoy talking about technology.
KB.
I'm just glad I was able to actually get in this time. And Rocco, you've done an awesome job ever since I started watching. So keep up the good work.
Well, we hope to see you again, brother. DJ, last word.
Thanks, Rocco, as always. And Jason, is that an arm? But anyway, it's 2020. I still want my flying car, not cow. See you all later. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.
Computer Kid, last word.
Thanks for the stream. I might be slightly in the same boat as Jason. I've got a new thing now that happens on Saturday nights, so maybe I'll make it, maybe I won't. There's no telling. But Jason, I know that we're here alone, but I've heard that if you look into that tiny black hole, you can see the whole entire internet in there.
Right.
Every one of them.
Leo, last word.
Thanks, Rocco, Dan, Nathan, Schickel. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you putting on an amazing show. Ooh, I saw that. And yeah, man, it's such a shame I didn't hit the Euro edition today, but I know it was amazing. I'll have to go back and watch. But other than that, be excellent to each other. Until next time.
Steven, last word.
Thanks, Rocco. Thanks, guys, and see you next week.
Barbara?
Thank you, Rocco and Dan and Nate and everybody else who puts this together. As others have said, this is my virtual lug. If I discuss any of these types of things with my friends, their eyes glaze over. So I love this. This is definitely great every week. So thank you all.
All right, that is going to wrap it up. Dan, Schickel, Nate, thank you so much for helping me out. Wouldn't be able to do it without you guys, just the way it is.
You got it, dude.
Anytime.
And I won't see you next week, but we will be here as a group collectively next week, and Dan will take over and do a fantastic job at it. But until then, long live Linux.
See yous.
Bye, folks.
Take care.
Ciao.
Bye, everyone.